Hi, my name's Clint Johnson. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I'm also the vice president of Simucase. Today, we are going to talk about how to use Simucase in your classes. So I'm on the home page, and I'm going to scroll down so that you can see our library of clients. And if you want to know more about a client, all you need to do is roll over them. Here we can see Robert is an assessment case, and he's 1 year post-stroke and interested in starting therapy. We also have, in addition to assessment cases, we have intervention cases. So you could also choose Alex, who's an 8-year-old with an articulation disorder. In addition to those types of cases, we also have cases where you can administer standardized assessments like the Expressive Vocabulary Test 2, the Castle 2, or the OWLS. So all you need to do to find out more about a client is just roll over on top of it, and you'll be able to see their referral information, their age, and what type of case it is. So let's complete an evaluation case first. So I'm going to go up here to Search Case Studies. And today we're going to be taking a look at Kelly. And Kelly is a child who's been referred for a speech and language evaluation. And let's scroll down and we'll find Kelly. And the first thing you're going to see when you come to your case is it's going to say start case. In my case, it says restart case because I've already been through this case once before. But so you'll see the button to start the case and you'll click that. And then you'll have two options here. You have start in learning mode or start in assessment mode. Learning mode will provide you with feedback. You want to use that the entire time. So let's start in learning mode. And then the first thing I want to do is show my clipboard. The clipboard's going to be where all the information we collect during a case gets stored. As I said, we can see Kelly is a 7-year-old girl. She's been having difficulty learning to read. She's in 2nd grade at a private school. Her mother is seeking additional information and requesting a comprehensive speech and language evaluation at your private practice. Across the top of the screen, you'll see case history, collaborators, hypothesis, assessments, diagnosis, and recommendations. We're going to be working in all of these areas. To the left of the headers are circles. These circles are progress meters that will gradually fill in as you make reflective decisions or select reflective questions to ask your client, caregiver, or other collaborator. So right here in the bottom center of the screen, we're going to say Start Case Study, and then we'll hear from Kelly's mom.
Hi, my name is Kelly and I'm 7 years old.
So let's move to case history and we'll talk to Kelly's
Hi,
mom.
I'm Kelly's mom. I'm not able to make today's evaluation, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Now, I should have said this. The goal here is to earn points that will ultimately give you a competency score that will be 90% or higher. So you're going to be scored in all of these areas, and you'll receive scores for, as I said, for making reflective decisions or selecting reflective questions to ask different people. So let's talk about how we select questions to ask. So we have questions that are reflective, meaning they earn you points. You also have questions that are acceptable, meaning they're just neutral. And then finally, you have questions that are rejected. Questions are going to be rejected for 4 reasons. Number 1, they're insensitive. 2, they use medical jargon that the listener can't understand. 3, they may not be developmentally appropriate for your client. Or 4, they are redundant. So again, we have reflective questions, acceptable questions, and rejected ones. So a question like, how old is Kelly? What grade is Kelly in? Those questions in this particular case are just going to be acceptable because we already had that information in our referral. They are completely okay to ask and they are not wrong. They're just not going to get us more points and allow us to complete our evaluation with any new information. So let's click on that.
Kelly is in the 2nd grade.
Tell me about your family. Does Kelly have any siblings? That would be a reflective question, and that would earn us points.
Kelly is an only child.
Is there a family history of speech language learning or reading delays? Again, a reflective question.
I've always had difficulty sounding out words, and my sister is dyslexic.
Now you can always move around to any of these other sections. We'll go to another one. We can ask Kelly's mom, what are your concerns?
Kelly is struggling in school. Reading and math are her most difficult subjects. Kelly has difficulty learning to sound out words, and she relies on her memory, which makes it difficult for her when reading and doing math problems. She loses interest quickly when she does not understand the material.
Now, when I clicked on that, I clicked on my third reflective question in a row, and I'm going to mute Mom so we don't repeat that monologue again. But in doing that, so 3 reflective questions in a row is going to get you positive feedback. So let's take a look at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see a green bar appear. Now, let's continue to ask some more reflective questions, and I want you to watch the progress meter up next to case history, and we'll continue to make it fill in. In what areas does this seem to impact Kelly the most? Has she ever received diagnostic or therapeutic services? Were there any complications during her pregnancy? Again, progress meters filling in and green bar appeared at the bottom of the screen. Did she meet all her developmental milestones? Does she have any issues with hearing? Does she have any speech difficulties? And this will be interesting. We'll listen to Mom again for this one.
She has a hard time saying the S and Z sound correctly.
So as you can see, I've now filled in my progress meter about a quarter of the way. So that means I'm around 25% in terms of my score. Ideally, we want you to fill this up as much as possible and then move to the next area. So you want to try to only hit the reflective and acceptable questions and avoid the rejected ones. So what happens if we click on some incorrect questions? Kelly's mom indicates that she just recently got separated. Asking Kelly's mom, why did you get separated, is really not any of your business, and it's not very pertinent to this case. So we will ask that and see what happens.
Do we really need to get into that now?
So you saw a red bar appear at the bottom of the screen, and Mom's not too happy with us. Is there a family history of speech language learning or reading delays? Has anyone in your family ever been diagnosed with a reading disorder? These 2 questions are basically the same. I can ask one or the other, but I cannot ask them both. So when I select the second one, you're going to see again a red bar, and the messaging will change to avoid selecting redundant questions.
I've always had difficulty sounding out words, and my sister is dyslexic.
Now you'll notice here that the messaging stayed the same as in this question, the family history question. So that's how you can tell also if a question is redundant. Now, if you look over in your clipboard on the right-hand side, you will see redirect number 1, redirect number 2. That lets me know how many questions I have answered incorrectly at this point. I feel comfortable going on. I've only missed 2, so I would probably still continue this case. If I miss, say, 5 or 6, I could always just stop and start the case over again. So now we're going to move on to collaborators. Now with the collaborators section, Kelly's mom or another collaborator or the client themselves are going to give you clues as to who you need to speak to. Remember, you're always evaluating generally with a team of folks. And so we want to interview them in case they did any other testing or they have been observing this child or they've been working directly with the child. So Kelly's mom indicates that she just recently saw the psychologist and Kelly had an evaluation there. So we'll start with the psychologist.
Hi, I'm the psychologist who evaluated Kelly. I sent her complete diagnostic report to your clipboard. I wasn't able to complete achievement testing. I recommend you include that in your evaluation.
And so then we can scroll over here to collaborators, and down below the psychologist monologue, you'll see Kelly's psychologist evaluation report in the form of a PDF. So anytime someone says they sent you a report, it will appear in your clipboard. It is very important for you to read these reports, as many times they will include information that is not located anywhere else. In this particular report, we find out that Kelly's cognitive abilities fall within the average to high average range. And we also find out that the psychologist has diagnosed ADHD. There's also some other information in here, but I'll let you read that if you decide to complete Kelly's case. Questions are going to be exactly the same with collaborators. You have reflective, acceptable, and rejected questions. And also, psychologist also gave us another hint. He did tell us we needed to complete achievement testing. So they won't just send you reports. Sometimes they'll tell you other tasks that might need to be completed. Now, you're not going to speak to all of the people here. You're only going to speak to the people that are pertinent to the case. So there are foils here, and if you click on people that are not pertinent to the case, then you're going to lose points, and if you continue to ask them questions, you'll continue to lose more points. At this point, I'm going to move on to the hypothesis, and here we want to answer the question, or the questions, what do you think is going on with Kelly or impacting her literacy skills, and what are you going to do when you assess her? So basically what we're looking for is you to take the information that you collected during the case history in the collaborators section and create a clinical hypothesis, and then create an action plan of what you're going to use to assess Kelly. So these can be formal and informal measures. Now, Simucase does not score this area. Your instructor will score this for you. So once you submit your case, they'll take a look at this hypothesis and action plan and make sure that it is on the right track. So now we can move to our assessment section. And assessments are going to be computer driven for the most part, meaning you choose the assessment and then you receive the results of the assessment. It's up to you to then interpret them. So we can start with our tick and phonology. We know that Kelly has some speech sound errors, so we want to assess articulation. We'll choose the Goldman-Fristow test of articulation 3, and then we can see her scores. So underneath the window, you see those scores appear. Standard score is 60, percentile rank of 0.4. If I move over to my clipboard underneath assessments, I will always get further descriptive results. So here we see, and this is confirmed by what the mom says, that she is dentalizing the S and Z sounds. We can also administer language tests to Kelly. So we can do the self-5 expressive. Click administer. Again, we receive our scores here, and then if we look over in assessments, you'll see the full results. Now, there are a few rules in assessments. Number one, you can't give too many assessments in the same area. So I chose to give the self-5. If I were to also choose the told P speaking composite, I'm going to lose points because this is going to be redundant. These are both full expressive language batteries, so I wouldn't want to give the second one. So now when I click on this, you're going to see a red bar appear at the bottom of the screen, and I will lose points in my progress meter. We can move on and we can give Kelly an oral mech.
To round your lips. Now go smile. Now close your lips and puff up your cheeks. Go.
And then we would choose other tests to administer. So to repeat, tests must be age appropriate. You can't give too many tests in the same area, and you can always check your clipboard for more results and not just see the scores underneath this window. At this point, I'll move on to diagnosis, and clients may have one diagnosis or they may have multiple diagnoses. The other thing you need to remember is to include diagnoses from other professionals. So we did not make this diagnosis of ADHD, but it would impact our recommendations, so we want to include it. And then we could also include that Kelly has an artic issue, because we did see that in our Goldman-Fristow. And then there are other diagnoses here that we would need to click off for Kelly. You can see we haven't quite filled the circle all the way in, so we need to find other diagnoses that would be appropriate for her. Finally, we're going to choose a recommendation summary for Kelly, and we're looking at the best overall recommendation for her. We're looking at whether or not she qualifies for treatment, what we're going to target in therapy, and any accommodations or modifications that might be necessary for her. After you choose that, you're going to click Submit, and then you will be done. So if I wanted to stop here, I could save and exit and come back to it later, or I can submit my case. Remember, you can always come back to a case and repeat it. So let's submit our case. We'll click Yes, and then we receive an overall competency rating. So competency is going to range from emerging up to 69%, developing is 70 to 89%, and mastering is 90% and above. You can count these for clinical hours, but you need to receive a 90 or above, and your supervisor has to sign off on that and debrief you following the conclusion of the case. So again, it's possible to receive clinical hours, but only if you receive a 90 or above. At this point, we can export our report, and we'll see everything that we put into our clipboard, and it's all right here. And so that is how an assessment case works. Now let's discuss real quickly how a treatment case works. So I'm going to scroll down and we'll take a look at Alex. And again, we're going to start in learning mode. And you'll notice that our headers have changed here. So we have baseline data, collaborators, treatment, client progress, and summary. And I'm going to show my clipboard, and we'll start the case study.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm 8 years old.
Now, in this case, you're the SLP assigned to work with Alex. So Alex is 8 years old. He has a speech sound disorder, and we want you to complete your intervention and then report your findings. So in this one, you want to start with the SLP. She's going to give you the information
Hello,
you need.
I'm the speech pathologist who recently completed Alex's evaluation. I sent a copy of his IEP and eligibility report to your clipboard.
So if you look over in the right hand, you will indeed see Alex's IEP. You can pull that up, and from there you can find his goals. Once you do that, you can ask the SLP questions. Again, they're reflective, acceptable, and rejected questions. And then we would go over, we can listen to a speech sample from Alex.
So we went.
And then we can choose objectives for him. One of those objectives is that he will discriminate R and W sounds at the word level. From here, we can move on to treatment. Now for treatment, you want to choose activities that are age appropriate. So choosing the Fisher-Price Little People Animal Sounds Farm is not going to be age appropriate for Alex. So for our activity of discrimination, we'll choose a book, we'll choose auditory discrimination, and click administer. Now Alex is going to tell you whether or not he hears a strong R or a weak W sound. So the clinician here is going to say ring. Alex will say success if he hears an R, fail if he hears a W. Ring.
Success.
We'll mark that as correct and move to the next item. Wing.
Fail.
Mark that as correct, move to the next item. Read.
Fail.
So now that one he got incorrect because it was an R sound and he said it was a W. You do need to count in this, so you will be asked for the percentage correct when you get to client progress, and the computer's not going to do that for you. So then we would move on to our progress, and his objectives were not met, and then we would choose the level of accuracy for this auditory discrimination activity. From here, we would then choose the best overall note regarding how the treatment session went. Click submit, and then you're done. The main thing to remember here is start with the SLP. He or she is going to tell you where you need to go next and also give you your goals. From there, we can submit our case, and again, we receive our overall competency rating. And again, we do want to see that competency up at 90%. I can export my report, and then I'm done. And that is how assessment and treatment cases work in Simucase. We do have one more case type, and that is the cases where you're going to administer a test. So here we start in learning mode. You'll notice that our headers change again. We'll show the clipboard, and we see that Michaela's 6 years old. She's been referred to receive the EBT2. We'll start our case study.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and I am 6 years old.
And then you want to go to your referral.
Michaela is a 6-year-old girl referred for an evaluation. You are assigned to complete the Expressive Vocabulary Test, 2nd edition, with Michaela and report your findings.
You have the opportunity to ask questions here. Next, you can read the manual. It's very important to read the manual when you're administering a test.
Thank you for referring to the abbreviated version of the EV.
And then that manual will appear over here in your clipboard. So you can bring it up and then choose the EBT. From here, we would then choose the start age for Michaela. We can also print out the record form if we like. And then you're just going to administer the test. Play the response. Oops, let me unmute her. Play the response.
A puppy.
Click whether it was correct or incorrect, and then move to the next item. So this is just like you're administering a real test. Well, it is a real test, but you're administering it kind of virtually here. So you would go through, mark the responses as correct or incorrect, and then you would go back to your manual and look up your scores, and then you would choose a summary for Michaela. So again, the thing to remember here is read your manual. It's going to tell you all the information that you need to know, and then you can go through and administer the test. And that is how the 3 case types work in Simucase. If you need assistance from us, please feel free to reach out. There's a contact window here that you can send us an email. There's also a chat window that's available from 8 to 5 Eastern time. For you guys, the email is probably going to be the best way to get in touch with us. Just shoot us an email. We generally answer emails up until about 10 Eastern time at night. I hope you enjoy using Simucase, and please reach out if you have any questions. And thank you very much.